Hi everybody, it's me, Maronic90, and it's a weeaboo time again. Let's talk some Fate Grand Order again. Yes, I've already made quite a few Fate videos on various topics, theories, power scales, and even versus battles, but this time things will be a little different. Today, I'll be talking about, you can read right, it's my top picks for future servants to add to Fate Grand Order or future Fate works. Because this is the only speculation other than who gets into Smash Brothers. Yes, I said I wasn't gonna do any Fate videos in a while, but this one was easy enough to make, on the side of multiple projects. So, buckle up folks, it's one of those not grounded in reality, wishy-washy, idealistic fantasy videos. Kinda like Shiro Emiya streams. I've picked 10 heroes from different legends and stories that I want to appear in the franchise, most of all, based on only my personal preference and bias. So, sorry if any of your favorite historical/mythical heroes aren't featured here, like German cross-dressing lolly Hitler or something. The merits I base my opinion on who I want in are 4 simple things. 1. The servant must be a great idea/awesome concept, which I feel is the most important factor to me. 2. They must have great story potential or interesting stuff they can add to lore or other characters, like cool new interactions likes of Einstein or something would have with other scholar servants. 3. Potential for awesome moveset/abilities. This is more FGO thing, but interesting skills and noble phantasms are given, seeing as this is servant wishlist. And 4. If there's a person that has been sorely missing but has been hyped, name-dropped or referenced in the series proper, that is a strong qualification, which would include characters like Ro Ayas or One Frankenstein. So, those are the parameters I'm operating under. By the way, this list is not in any particular order, except I do have a favorite that I'll be saving for the last. I'll give my thoughts on potential storylines and ideas for their classes and skills on the way, as well as some honorable mentions. I swear, if I wasn't such an heartless Scrooge, moneyless street rat, I'd commission artwork for this video. So, without any further meandering, let's get the show on the road. Starting off with a big name that somehow was missing in Chinese Lost Belt. The legendary war general of China himself, Sun Tzu. I couldn't figure out just a single class this guy would fit into. My guess is that Rider would be the best fit, but Saber, Lancer and Archer are all viable options. Obviously, he'd have skills and abilities derived from his famous book, Art of War, which would range from tactics, martial arts, philosophy and so on. I'm picturing it as his noble phantasm capable of bestowing different skills having to do with warfare to himself or his allies, possibly extending to entire armies worth of people, if they are loyal to him. Or he could also have Ionioi Hetyroi type NP as his minor noble phantasm, able to summon that harem of women he made into soldiers. Yeah, check it out, that's a thing. Now, obviously this guy has huge potential in terms of abilities, and as FGO character in particular, he'd be great support servant, similar to Chen Gong in particular, with noble phantasm granting obscene amount of team buffs. Story potential for this character is also very interesting. It is still heavily debated if this guy ever existed in actual history, or if he was just a pen name of multiple war generals, or if the art of war was actually just a collection of wisdom from nameless soldiers. His manifestation as servant could be similar to Sasaki Kochiro's in that sense. Maybe he's just a guy matching Sun Tzu, or person that the fictitious Sun Tzu was based on, or crystallization of beliefs of people about him, or combination of multiple people who created Art of War, as each of them would be Sun Tzu in the eyes of Throne of Heroes. Or, it could just be a guy being like, "Huh, joke's on you, I was real all along," but I think that'd be the most boring option. But yeah, it's a wonder that this guy hasn't appeared in any Fate work considering his fame, so that's one insta-pick for me. Next we have... Oh no, another artist servant. Can these goddamn assholes please stop invading our Fate works and stick to writing their own separate historical fanfics? Certainly not, since Dante has such a huge wealth of stuff to draw from in terms of abilities and lore, just by virtue of his one major poem, the Divine Comedy. This is a guy whose writings have definitely influenced and informed the views of many people and their beliefs about Christian faith, cosmology and art. obviously he's heroic spirit material. Of course, Dante is a poet and a writer, so him displaying magecraft qualifying him as caster isn't guaranteed, but with other writer-type servants having the class due to their works influencing mysteries or them getting sublimed into abilities they have, I'd see this is the best fit for him. Or I guess he could be foreigner, seeing how in his works heaven is mostly outer space. But I wouldn't like to devalue the class away from its original purpose and abilities any more than it already has been. Oh, speaking of abilities, this is the good part. They could be all derived from his Divine Comedy, where Dante himself is the main character, traveling through Inferno, Purgatory, and Paradiso. I think I've said this in the past, but how cool would it be if those three worlds depicted in his poems actually became his reality marbles? His noble phantasm could either manifest those worlds from his writings depending on its affinity to his opponent, or one big set of junk that could require a huge ritual to summon, or it could gradually go from hell to purgatory and end in heaven. Kinda like levels of Kefka's final boss in Final Fantasy VI. Either way, it would be overpowered ability, but otherwise he'd be a weak sauce like the other author servants. That MP could almost carry its own singularity or event with all the analog characters in FGO that could play the part of characters of the poem, and I believe that many would have words with Dante for condemning them to hell for all eternity. Design-wise, my pitch would be similar to original concept they had for Mozart, this subdued red cape that opens to reveal glorious colors like it was opera or play stage, really over the top. The dude had quite high opinion of himself. He'd either be this cool, elderly gentleman type, or alternatively make him super edgy anime pretty boy, who's totally fucked personality-wise. What? Edgy face for edgy writer, says I. We need more bastards. Give him a demeanor of fanfic writer who's really into his own theology and glorifies his waifu, because let's face it, that's who he kinda was. The obvious reference here would be to make him a cool bro dude with a coat and a guns, but too on the nose, I think. Akhenaten was known as Mad Pharaoh and possible Wamp who ruled over ancient Egypt in its 18th dynasty. And boy, if this guy is an interesting case study. He could obviously manifest as Berserker, being most famous for his silly gag of replacing old religious practices and worship of Egyptian gods by appointing his OC #DoNotSteal super awesome sun disk as chief deity and center of Egyptian universe that earned him ire of his people. If that doesn't sound like absolute cartoonish fate character, nothing does. While I do like the idea of crazy King Akhenaten, let's not make him into total Caligula. That guy. So caster class would be my first pick, as he's also associated with mysteries and occult stuff. And of course, the sun disk would be his noble phantasm. Something like that, maybe. And of course, he'd have skills that destroy old busted traditions like certain Demon King we know of. A big theme I'm also picturing for the guy would be traditional faith fashion insanity. Akhenaten is rumored to have, just kind of vanished one day, like lost.jpg. Yeah, geez, maybe it was aliens that took him. Maybe he's a flying saucer and went nuts and invented his Sundisk thing afterwards, yeah. Pharaoh plus aliens plus Escanor, how about that? I almost want to say this is my best idea for him, but alien stuff has been done to meme death already, so I don't think it's that funny anymore. But alternate route for his lore would be to pull from his very controversial role of possibly being one of the earliest pioneers of monotheism. Like I said, interesting stuff. For design elements, make this dude imposing AF. Huge, monstrous, maybe like Darius or Exodia maybe? Of course, this guy showing up in Chaldea would naturally raise some eyebrows. He'd spread the word of his neat sun disk everywhere he'd go, and naturally all other Egyptian rulers would have a problem with him, especially Ozymandias, but he'd find a like-minded company from Nobu, and perhaps Yin lets harass the Confucian Shi Huangdi. Moby Dick is a great book, especially if you need to squash big spiders, or if you want to add another iconic literacy character to FGO who has influenced all of fiction. Well, technically, Captain Ahab is part of Nasuverse already, supposedly as one of the 7 shadows of the enigmatic Watcher class servant in Fate, Strange Fake. Still waiting for a continuation. While the identities of the 7 are not confirmed as of yet, aside from Asclepius, Icarus and Amelia Earhart are implied to be among them, as well as this guy known as Captain, who judging from his appearance and dialogue is Ahab. But these shadows can't be called heroic spirits and may not reflect their true manifestations as servants. And I'm talking about seeing him as real active servant in Fate work here. If this is him, I have no problems with this design. That just screams Ahab to me. So, a demonic, larger-than-life captain of a ship on eternal quest for revenge against indomitable whale that actually has been confirmed to be high-class divine beast of mass destruction in the verse. Naturally, Ahab would be a very powerful rider, or avenger. I'd definitely want him as rider, so he could, after set conditions are met, ride with his noble phantasm, Moby Dick. Wait, what the f***? Why did the 2 mortal enemies work together, you might ask? Well, the logic I'm following here is that the 2 are so intertwined that they can't exist separately as heroic spirits. Ahab can't live without Moby, and Moby will always be there to torment Ahab. This is the last ship I'll believe in. Hey, it worked for Duck Hunt Duo, didn't it? Alternatively, Ahab would be Avenger more often than not, and he could still have Moby as MP, but riding him would make less sense. Best thing here would be a double summon scenario, like with Semiramis and Alcides, to break the tie. Personality-wise, he'd be grizzled as but would still have a good relationship with his master, like he would with a shipmate. There can never be enough badass old men in Fate, I'll tell you that much. Up next, some African heroes. Like, bruh, outside of fucking Egyptian pharaohs, what, we have like 1 or 2 heroic spirits from one of the biggest continents out of the 5/7 in the fucking world. Like, that sucks. Africa seriously has so many folktales and mythologies, they really deserve more attention. While Thakane and Mansa Musa almost made it to the video, I ended up picking 2 other African heroes that I'd like to see done in Fate style. So, Window was this Chad who was armed with magical konga, a type of fly swatter that was able to, in Fate terms, perform bullshit high thaumaturgy, like raising the dead and commanding weather, and he possessed ridiculous iron body that made him nigh invulnerable. This dude could put hands on divine beasts like Kirimu and gods of underworld like Muisa, so he's hella OP. Perspective of the sky would be skill onto clairvoyance, a crystallization of the higher perspective he got when he was taken to the world of gods, so they could humble him for his arrogance. There's really all sorts of things Window could have going on for him that I don't have time to go over, but for his aesthetics, either this shirtless jacked anime hero with tiny weapon, or smaller childlike variant with huge weapon. His body would also reflect it being made into armor in some versions by literally taking him apart and replacing his body with armor, like maybe he's living metal man or has golden skin or something, I don't know. Also, his miracle birth could be a cool storytelling gimmick, like maybe he starts as the brash boy from the beginning of his tale and repeatedly using his noble phantasm becomes this wise adult who embodies self-improvement. So basically speedrunning Gilgamesh's arc in FGO. And his story is also called an epic. Coincidence? Maybe.
Oh no, the crowd is parting! Who's coming? It's Moses!
Here come the Prince of Egypt and JoJo memes. Naturally, those 2 factors have nothing to do with me picking Moses. Nothing at all. After all, he's a great figure, worth adding to Fate Go in particular, with all the lore, connections to Wario's other servants, and just the fun possibilities that could be done with his skill set. Revelations from God, 10 plagues of Egypt, splitting of the Red Sea, Pillar of Flame, 10 Commandments, Ark of the Covenant, saw the true face of God, progenitor of both Jew and Christianity alike. Like imagine Ozymandias. He'd be busted as fuck with overpowered abilities, but not a total dipshit. Heck, these 2 interacting could easily be basis for entire Fate work in on itself. Come to think of it, the 2 have interesting rivalry to say the least. Kinda reverse of Gil and Enkidu, who started as enemies and then turned into friends, while Ozzy and Moses started as brothers, but later became enemies. I guess there's something to reflect on. Yes, technically Moses is already in Fate canon, as we have heard quite a bit of information about him and his time with Ozzy and Nefertiti in Fate prototype fragments. He's even fully designed and has some confirmed skills, but saying that this counts as full-on appearance from him as actually fleshed out character is like saying that Birdiad appears in Hollow Ataraxia. Moses has thus far only been reference, who, like many others in this list, I'd like to receive full glorious appearance for. If not as full-on important main character, then as a mentor type character. And naturally, either Kazuyuki Okitsu or Daisuke Ono would be his voice actors. Either is fine really. Story is tale of a man, a regular human being, no less human than anyone who was forced to take up arms during the time of war. Though in the eyes of his enemies, this man was unto a grim reaper itself. An unparalleled sniper that killed more than any other white death. So yeah, Simo Häyhä, that's the correct pronunciation by the way, was famed Finnish national hero from World War II era, particularly the Winter War against Soviet invasion. Like, Mannerheim is epic and all, but White Death though. Like, in the name of Jeff Goldblum's cock, why wasn't this fucking legend present for fucking Russian Lost Belt? Like, I don't get it. We have a resistance fighting the Obrigny with Billy the fucking Kid of all people taking spotlight. While here's a hero who has actual history with Russia, actual Winter War experience, and fighting overwhelming odds. Like, actual fucking sniper would have gone well with the Poxy and rest of the Yuga teaming. Like, what the fuck? Missed opportunity. But hey, this is the timeline we live on. Anyway, Simo was famous for amassing largest confirmed body count as a sniper during the war, and you know what? Without a fucking scope. So obviously Archer with highest ranked tough guy skill available, and his famous invincible sniper hiding among the snow could become a skill akin to presence concealment, or heck, even ability like Robin Hood's making. For NP, some gay bolg alike causality altering or insta-death move, obviously named White Death after his ability to never fail to shoot his target. Or maybe one that changes his surroundings into Winter War scenario, like what Reincarnation no Gaben did with the character. Design wise, well, all you really need is badass rendition of this image, or you could go the Fate route. And I'm not like capping here, there's actual precedence for gender-bent Simo. Not in the fucking real world, I'll tell you that much, but in other fictionalized tellings about his life, such as short manga called The White Witch or Shiroi Majo, which might be the most historically inaccurate depiction of winter warfare, unless you think Michael Bay's Pearl Harbor is accurate depiction of real history. Here, Simo is young woman for no particular reason, which is a waste, since at least with Nasu Wars, you either get meaningfully different take on classic legend or a good laugh at the silly justifications for the gender change. Looking at you, one cog. Oh well, the least Fate can do is have a version of Simo appear in FGO as an epic critic star killer. This man should be Grandcaster material, and where is he? Nowhere. Well, I kid. The strongest wizard of Heian period Japan, Abe no Seimei, has actually been a pretty hyped up figure in Fate works, and gets mentioned from time to time. They tell you that he's a supernatural being, whose mother was a kitsune, a nine-tailed fox, who grew up to be able to command gods, yin-yang, and secrets of immortality, which made him greatest onmyoji sorcerer, so much so that many would call him Merlin of the East, but when it comes to actually appearing, oh sure, Hisoka McClown Boy and Ibuki Doinshi are wrecking the world. Nah, now was my time. Oh, what's that? My greatest rival is using my name, claiming to be a Satanist? I'll allow it. I just know they're gonna use him, otherwise they wouldn't be such a tease about it. Or, I don't know, maybe Nasu doesn't want Seimei to be included. I mean, the dude has been adapted so many dang times by now, especially in Japanese media. Hard to find unique spin on things maybe. Though I wouldn't mind if he's just cookie cutter Eastern sorcerer archetype that we've seen million times, since his lore would still be a catalyst for many interesting interactions and possible storylines, like drop Seimei in modern day Earth with all his mysteries, and he'd make fool out of literally everyone. Like, didn't we have entire disappointing summer event about some loser trying to figure out immortality? Well, Seimei already did that. Isn't time travel consistently treated as impressive thing? This guy might be actual user. The dude contributed to defeats of Shuten, Doji, and Nine-Tailed Tamamo no Mae. At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if he was a true magic user. Like, why not at this point? As there are alarming lack of beards in our caster populace, that should be part of his design. Look, he can still look all dreamy and shit, but I want that beard. As for personality, he'd be boastful of his abilities, yet would be fundamentally not human. He'd have no particular interest on his master, but would appreciate the talented. Once there was an itsy-bitsy spider who was master of tricks and screwing with fools. An underdog who outsmarted mortals and gods alike. Spider God who has reached great fame not only on his home continent of Africa, but overseas too. Yes, Fate needs some Anansi. As you can see, all my class suggestions for him are interestingly extra classes. I feel that Anansi is such an irregular that he doesn't really fit into standard 7 classes. He has affinity for Avenger or performing his tricks in spite, such as in the story where he killed nothing. That was the name of the guy. But why alter ego? I feel he would be one of those cases the devs could do something nutty with him. Like maybe he's fused with other gods, African legends, or spiders from mythology like Arachne or Sumerian goddess Utu. His status as god of stories would also possibly land him the elusive pretender class if you squint. He did win ownership of all of the world stories from Nyame, which could be argued to make him pretend Nyame. That could be a fun concept to play around with, and a good way to add some pretenders into FGO or whatever. But don't make him a pseudo-servant. The only character left for that is Shinji. And that. I really want God of Stories thing be acknowledged, since it would make underdog Anansi immensely OP, depending on how stories are defined. Like Legends of Heroic Spirits are all stories, right? He could have noble phantasm that can turn the entire world upside down, blur the fact and fiction even more than Alf Layla Walayla. Or maybe it would be like Shakespeare's NP. Who knows, but one thing I know, that he could be used as great commentary for stories in Fate, and how they are used or interpreted, in kinda metafictional sense too. Naturally, he'd have many skills as both god and hero, like shapeshift between human and spider forms or combination of the two, considering his portrayals vary on that front. Which brings me to his design. He should either look absolutely cool and menacing as fuck, or alternatively silly as fuck. Both are portrayals for him in his stories. Who knows, could be Ascension gimmick. Like if he turns from silly clown spider into badass hybrid. Now there's art I wanna see. For personality, archetypal trickster who thinks knowledge and stories belong to everyone, and detests servitude, possibly even their own master. Before we move on to number 1, my biggest wish for a new servant that I hope we'll see one day, here are some honorable mentions I thought would be funny. Number 1 is the handsome Monkey King, sage equal to heaven, king of the waterfall cave, mad lad who has kicked heaven's ass more than any other, 7 times immortal, and the guy who inspired half of your favorite characters. Sun Wukong is obvious pick for number 1. This monkey has so much going on, I can't list all the things that make him as larger than life as he is, while ironically he's just one facet of a sprawling story, Journey to the West. I'd really like to see what type Moon Peeps would do with his lore irregular Grail War type story, or in FGO. Damn, I'd take anything with Wukong. Well, except for that weird stuff they did in Adventures of Lord Elmeloy II. Look, if we'd left Parvati and Brunhild at the states they were in CCC, the world would lack 2 good lancers. Speaking of, his abilities. As overpowered hero who amassed many skills, he'd fit into Wario's classes, possibly all standard 7. I even had this idea that he could freely modify his spirit origin to change classes on a whim due to his NP-72 transformations. And hey, this might design-wise even allow him to change genders, like his brief cameo in Koha Ace. So yes, we can have Wukong with Oppai, you dweebs. Other design elements, I don't really care. He could look goofy, badass or cute. What I'm accepting most, that his art be done in style that makes him feel like classical manga/anime character, like the ones he inspired. Back to the abilities. He'd have minimum of 4 noble phantasms that could change with the classes. Chief among them, his Sparrow Cloud, sacred tools taken from Gold and Silver Brothers, and his staff, Rui Jing Bangu. That, FYI, is actually similar divine construct as Rome Dominion that ties up all the planet's textures in Fate lore. Big OP. His immortality could also be NP similar to God Hand. He'd basically be among the cream of the crop when it comes to servants. Naturally, he'd have difficult personality to deal with, huge beef against gods, and authority figures in general in very the police kind of way, but would still be quirky and fun outside of combat. He was a party dude after all. He would maybe have a somewhat similar relationship with his teacher Sansan as Ku Hulan has with Skahak, but they'd butt heads more often, and he'd constantly tease Neda, who wants to be taken seriously as his rival. Maybe he'd manifest as unruly monkey who hates his future as Buddha, seeing it as something that has tamed him, but he learns what kind of journey led to it and learns to respect it. Gosh, we need Journey to the West Event Z. I could keep going all day on about what I'd like to see from him and other servants, but I think that's enough for one video. Alright, that's that. I'm sure you seasoned Nasuverse fans got a good idea of how each of these servants would look in Fate, but for the newer fans who have no idea what I'm talking about half the time, welcome to the franchise. I hope you enjoy becoming historian and mythologist on your free time and destitute as your part-time job. Remember kids, you only win by escaping fate, and I've utterly failed in doing so. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm very interested on your wishes and ideas for new servants. I already saw some really awesome suggestions in comment section for my Grand Servant video, and accept more. So feel free to comment down what servants you'd like to see, what storylines and abilities they might have, and we'll see if we get any of them in the future. I'll cream my pants if even one of these gets in. Before you go, like, sub, and hit the notifications, and you too can take part in lottery to win those limited time Ascension materials that you forgot the first time playing FGO event, causing your Nobbu to get stuck on awkward level. Well, just kidding, I'm not some wish-granting device. But like and subscribe anyway, it won't cost you. And fucking check out my Smash Brothers videos. I'm Marionik90, thanks for indulging my ramblings. Bye bye.